Today, I am here with Farrah Douglas, head coach of the brand new women's rugby program at Thomas College in Waterville, Maine. A former USA Eagle, Coach Douglas is known for her athlete first approach, emphasizing discipline, leadership, resilience, and growth both on and off the pitch. Welcome, Coach. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. So
Good.
excited to be here.
Super. Well, let's dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your tenure at Thomas College?
Yes, I joined Thomas College in July of 2024 to lead the launch of their inaugural women's rugby program. Prior to that, I've had a pretty extensive background as both a rugby player representing the US for about 8 years with two World Cups as a player and one as a staff member. I've coached internationally, collegiate, club, and high performance levels for, I feel like I don't want to say because it makes me old, for a very long time. Between playing and coaching, I've been involved in rugby for probably about 30 years. I'm really deeply engaged in like the student athlete experience and development. So here at Thomas, as a Division III program, most coaches have secondary roles. So my secondary role at Thomas is our student athlete academic liaison. So I work with our student success office to help drive academic success within our student athlete body, but I'm also working on some cross-campus initiatives with our director. And then last school year, I was also our student athlete inclusivity and diversity committee faculty advisor. So here at Thomas, my role isn't just about building a successful rugby team, it's fostering a space where students, in particular student athletes as my area of expertise, can grow through sport, community leadership, and academics.
Great. And considering your playing and coaching background, what really appealed to you about starting a new women's program at Thomas?
That's a really interesting question because I think once I got on campus, I had this aha moment of why finally I found myself at a D3 environment. My first NCAA coaching experience was 6 years at the helm of Mount St. Mary's University, where I transitioned their program from a club program to varsity. And I find myself in a very different environment at the Division III level, but that's my background as a student athlete. I graduated college from Bowdoin, which is D3. They're a NESCAC school, and I came there to be a three-sport athlete. Initially, it was cross country, indoor, outdoor track and field, and I ended up transitioning out of cross country into rugby, but continued to play both sports while I was there. And I think what draws me to the Division III world is the experience of the student athlete is more driven and controlled by the student athlete, and you do have the ability to continue growing as a multi-sport athlete. And I think sometimes in the Division I and Division II environment, it's much harder to do that. And I find that that balance often means that at the Division III level, we're much truer to the mission around whole person development, where we're looking at each student and within athletics, the student athlete as a whole person, where the development within sport is just one aspect of what we're engaged and collaborating across campus to help this student graduate on time. So there's degree progress, develop within their sport, um, help them reach whatever goals, speaking specific to rugby, with the success of our sevens program and the strength we're seeing over time with our women's 15s program. And of course, you can't talk about women's rugby without talking about Alona. Girls, young women are excited about rugby and have really big goals. They're looking to go to a World Cup, put on a national team jersey, whether that's here in the US or abroad. And I think that you can kind of get all of those things, but also be ready for life beyond sport in a D3 environment because we're looking at you as the person, I think, in a very different way. And program success, I think, looks different at this level, where yeah, we are 100% looking at winning championships and having a win-loss ratio where your wins are higher than your losses. Any coach or, collegiate administrator within athletics is going to say that, your winning record does make a difference because it helps drive people to your program, alumni engagement, a fan base, and all of those things that help a program remain sustainable. But I think that it's very much about the environment and the experience. And
A word that
that
always
calls to
comes,
me.
thank you. A word that always comes to mind for me with respect to Division 3 athletics is that it's a nurturing environment, as far as
Yes.
the students go. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
100%. In my recruiting conversations, I often talk about Mary Beth Matthews. She was my college coach, and I think that that experience and the relationship I had with her very much drives how I feel my role and responsibility is as a coach. And I think nurturing is the perfect word to describe it. I'm very much competitive, and so I will push all athletes, regardless of where they're coming to me within their experience of the sport, to be their best version of self, better than they were the day before, better than we were the week before, so that they're on a trajectory to develop and grow from the start of a season to the end of a season, from a start of an academic year to the end of an academic year. But within that, nurturing them is the biggest piece of it because you can't help someone grow if you don't understand where they're at and meet them there, but allow them the space to make mistakes, talk with you, have conversation, but also I think to give them the experience that matches them and nurture them on that way, that journey, if you will.
As
So
a co
yes.
as a coach, how do you blend together as we're talking about nurturing, how do you blend together the very experienced rugby athletes with people who are new to the sport?
Oh, that's the catch 22, right? Um, I think it's setting up clear expectations, but empowering the experienced athlete to help develop and guide their teammates. And that's not saying that coaching is their responsibility, but I think it's getting them to understand that there's a commonality, a common goal that each of us shares being a part of the program, and that's program success, and it exists on multiple levels, right? So the most obvious is trying to win on a Saturday, progress to a playoff, progress to a championship. And then within that, I think it is helping teammates feel that each of them, regardless of the background they're coming from, brings value to the table and has something to offer. And we all have a coach inside of us. So if my athletes who are more experienced can step up in leadership roles and help, and by help, it's mentoring so that the coach is not the only source of information that players are going to. I think that empowers them, develops their game understanding, but also I think it makes the connection on field much stronger where you're developing not just like respect and trust, but this idea that my teammate always has my back and they're looking out for me so that what's happening is it's the best version of where for me performatively based on where I'm at. And I think for me, it's being upfront about where the program is in this sort of inaugural stage. So when I'm talking to athletes, I want athletes to understand that everyone brings value, but also there is a really unique opportunity here at Thomas to be a part of something new, to be a pioneer. And I think that also plays into what coaches at high performance levels are looking for is that player who is driven and coaches up the people around them. So when they step on the field, the level of everyone's play steps up. And, and I think it's a kind of a combination of all those things. So a lot of times it's just having conversations with athletes and getting an understanding of what it is they're looking, and then having that conversation about what it's like, being honest that there are going to be new players. And because rugby is such a young sport, so to speak, here in the US, often every single one of us on to the field, to the pitch, to the practice, into a meeting, and we were the most inexperienced person. And it was a combination of teammates and coaches investing and developing us that helped get us to the point we're at now. And so it's a part of giving back to the game that's given us so much.
Sure. We've spoken philosophically at this point. Let's look at the tactics. And
Mhm.
what can you tell me about the rugby program at Thomas College? Who will you play against? What division will you be in this fall? And will you play both 15s and 17s?
So we will play both 15s and 7s. This first season, as an inaugural season, it is also what we would call a developmental season for NCAA because from a recruiting standpoint, it's a little bit harder to, in your first year, recruit a full roster. Play athletes are often looking at win-loss records, a coach's experience, and getting to know a team. So all of those kind of factors build into building your numbers. And because we're such a newer program and our roster initially to start is smaller, um, that's sort of like putting us in what I would call like a holding space. So this first fall season, we will play sevens because we are in a developmental building block for what will traditionally be our competitive 15th season. So with that, we'll play teams like UNE and Bowdoin. So traditional Naira. In the fall, I'm sorry, in the spring, we'll be playing sevens, and we are hoping to go into the spring season postseason eligible. And what that means is that we would be attending tournaments with the idea of trying to qualify for whatever the spring is looking like in terms of postseason competition, be that something that's hybrid between NYRA and NCR, or if there is a Division Three NYRA Sevens Championship, as last spring NYRA hosted their first inaugural one. So we'll look at what our options are for a postseason run and have a go at that. And strategically for me, that's just kind of like looking at where we're at as a program. And then the hope is with the next incoming class of fall 2026 starts, with a few who will be looking to commit this spring semester, will transition into 15s fall of 2026, and again, sevens in the spring.
So you bring up a good point about the spring semester. So if you had someone who wanted to start in January, they would be able to?
Yes.
Great. At the end of the summer, we're getting ready for all of these kids all over the country to go back to school. When do players report to Thomas, and what will the rugby week look like from a training, lifting, playing perspective?
So this year, their actually report date to campus is a week from tomorrow, so Friday, August 15th. But that day, they move into their housing on campus, and then there's a number of clearance meetings that they'll do around NCAA stuff. And then the actual preseason will start that Saturday. The structure of preseason for us will look at a combination of on-field sessions running anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes field classroom sessions where we'll be looking at video, talking tactics and strategy. There'll also be some meetings. We'll go over culture, of course, team bonding activities. There's a lot of fun things to do in our area. Who knows? We might go hiking. There's the beach. Um, they'll be doing some fitness testing with our strength and conditioning coach, and then they'll have a number of days that they'll start their season lift. Right now, they're on a preseason program that they received in May, and that will take us into the first week of classes, in which time we'll transition into what our weekly schedule will be, where the team will be in the weight room twice a week doing functional movement and some other S&C activities that'll be on field 2 other days during the week, and then the rest of the days will be combination of either game day or will be on field. And that's kind of our schedule. Then we revisit when we come back in the spring, looking at when our first tournament is, and then we work backwards from there. The only change I think that'll happen for the fall of 2026 is we will likely start a week later, depending on when we schedule our first match.
So, when you are talking to recruits, what stands out to you as a positive, and by the same token, what stands out to you as a red flag?
I think a positive for me, my recruiting has changed a little bit, I think, in not recruiting for a Division I program. So I think that one of the key things that stands out to me are players who are excited about the opportunity to grow something, to be a part of the beginning, and can articulate the importance of leadership and the relationship between players and the importance of, I think, team culture. Because I feel pretty strongly that my coaching resume speaks to my ability to develop players. So at this early stage of developing a program, do I want all-star players and, the best of the best? Of course, what coach doesn't? Having impact players like that can make a difference on field when it comes to performance outcomes. But the important piece of things for me is the character and the coachability, because I can develop the skills, but what I can't always develop is good people. And so I think the most important thing for me is looking at that, those intangibles that you can't see when someone sends you a highlight clip, and trying to get out and watch players, see how they interact with the opposition, with their teammates, their body language when they're talking to parents, referees, their own coach, and just trying to really get to know the person that is the athlete.
Great. So, it sounds like you're talking about finding the right fit, both for from a coach's perspective and from the student's perspective. And I think that finding that fit and finding that place that works well for you is so important. Another thing that is important is affordability. What can you tell me about how scholarships work at Thomas College?
Well, as a D3 program, we don't offer athletic scholarships. Those are strictly for Division I and Division II. So at Thomas, like most D3 schools, the bulk of your scholarship money is going to come from your academic performance. So grades always are important. And I didn't talk about this. I'm also looking at like the academic portion. I don't want someone to just want to come here because I'm a good coach. I want them to want to come here because they can get a great education and develop as a rugby player. So academics is the bulk of your money. That's going to be based on the cumulative high school GPA, and Some additional factors that admissions will look at: strength of the high school program, what type of courses they're taking. So that's the primary amount, sort of like where the money comes from. And then for athletes, students who are not residents of the state of Maine, there is a non-residential scholarship. It's very small, but it adds to the merit scholarship for all students coming to Thomas who are from out of state. And then at the international level, there is something similar for the non-residential scholarship. It's called an International Opportunity Scholarship, and that is directed at students, academic, um, and student athletes, both the general population, who are coming to us from outside of the US.
Okay, great.
And so I think the big thing is really the academic portion of things, but I would call Thomas a fairly affordable school in terms of where we sit tuition wise, and with the ability to complete an accelerated bachelor's degree if your GPA is high enough. That I think makes it even more affordable because you can be done in 3 years. And we do have our 3+1 program where in 4 years, if you're accepted into the program, you can leave with a master's in business, or criminology and criminal justice.
Wow, you don't hear about that very often. Oftentimes it's how much longer it takes to finish a degree and not how quickly you can do it.
Yes, I'm experiencing that myself right now.
So can you tell me a little bit about men's rugby at Thomas College?
Sure. Our men's coach, Coach Solis, he is amazing and a very similar approach to the recruiting and building of his program. They will compete in NCR. I'm not sure what their div division is. It's Division 3, but like what the cup that they're competing in, because we've talked about it before, but I always get them confused. But so he's going to be recruiting in a similar way. His roster right now, which is really exciting, he's got a very strong portion of international athletes coming in, combination of domestic as well as some uh, walk-ons and crossover athletes. So his goal this fall will be jumping straight into 15s, which is exciting. He had about a month or so head start on the recruiting process. Um, and I think that he's looking to go after things this fall, which is really exciting. We're just structured a little bit different, so we're gonna try to go after it in the spring. But it's an exciting time for both programs. Um, the men and women we share, Tony and I share an office together, and we will collaborate on a lot of things over the duration of this program build, which I think is really important to have your men and women's programs aligned together.
That's super. No, he's definitely an ambitious guy. It'll be really fun to
Yes.
see what both of you do with your respective programs. I just have two questions left. And the first one is bigger than rugby. I was wondering what you think are the best attributes or the most notable courses of study at Thomas College.
Um, our what I would say our strongest programs, we have an amazing education program. We're known for our business program, especially because you can do that 3+1. We have a brand new digital media lab, and I wish that was my thing because the technology and the equipment that is in there is amazing. I'm just not a computer camera person. So digital media is a strong. Our criminal justice and criminology programs are very, very strong. We have some amazing faculty with fantastic experience. We had a professor that was on 48 hours about forensics not that long ago. And then as we are building out our sciences, last summer they renovated all of our science labs, and they look fantastic. And we are pushing out more and more science and research based majors, which is exciting. We have some fantastic staff members within biology to guide our pre-med, um, pre-dental students that have a lot of experience within the field. I think psychology is another really strong program for us, and we just are launching for fall next year. So she is looking to continue to expand what Thomas is offering academically. And I think for me as a coach, that's a really exciting thing to see that our academic programs are continuing to grow and expand and develop and offer our student body more opportunities.
Great. And finally, what can you tell us about where you're located and the surrounding community?
So Thomas is located in Waterville, Maine. Our campus sits along the Kennebec River. We are about an hour north of Portland, Maine, 2.5 from Boston, and an hour. So it's kind of you have within a drivable distance, like two like bigger cities, and then the capital of Maine is about 20 minutes away from us. That's Augusta. In terms of our area, there there's just so much. There's a lot of trail systems. The Appalachian Trail is not far, so you've got Mount Katahdin, and there are various trail systems with beautiful overlooks for anybody that likes to be outside, with a variety of difficulty for hiking. Close to here, of course, we've got the Quarry Road trails where you can mountain bike in the wintertime. There is Nordic skiing, snowshoeing. Skiing in the winter is a really big thing here. Fishing, ice fishing. Booth Bay is, I think, about an hour from here, and they have a beautiful botanical garden. And then you're gonna get your normal like city things in Portland. Within Waterville itself, we have the Waterville Opera House, and they have an assortment of plays, musicals, concerts that come in. You've got the big concert arena that's in Bangor as well. Um, Really, I think most things that you're interested in within a 2 hour kind of circle of us, you'll find it. Um, And what I like about Waterville is it's kind of big, but it's small. It's safe. I'm an ultra runner now that I'm retired from rugby, so I'm still going through my phase of going out and finding different places to run, and it's just, I feel safe. It's beautiful. It is hot right now, but it's hot everywhere. Winter is cold, but I mean, the snowfall here is gorgeous. So I think you get a very good blend of like city busy suburbs and then like rural. And so most things people are interested in, you'll be able to find it,
That's
which
great. That
is
painted a
I
really
think
good
is nice to
picture.
have that variety. Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you so much.
Tony is always better at explaining this because he is from Maine. So um I think like the perspective is different. I went to college in Maine and moved away from New England. And, this is kind of exciting for me because this is the first time I've lived in New England since I graduated from Bowdoin a very, very, very long time ago. So very much like my athletes, I'm sort of discovering the wonders of Maine all over again. And that's, this, I'm just finishing my first year of working here at Thomason. That's the second part of it that's exciting for me is kind of like reacquainting myself with my New England roots.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because Tony told me about the ice fishing. but he didn't
Yeah, he
mention the
like
opera
loves it.
house. Oh, he didn't mention the opera house. So different perspectives.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. I can't wait to see what happens at Thomas College with both men's rugby with their 15s this fall and sevens and building up your program in the spring. And I look forward to seeing you what happens on and off the pitch. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me.